you want to be on this side rather than that side?
It happens that that's the way this operates.
I mean, on that side.
I'd rather be on this side.
Oh, okay, then what we can do is, we can get it so that you can...
Take a little.
Yeah, well, let's do that, because it doesn't make sense to have you stand up this whole time.
Standing up, I can speak better that way.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where this book is.
Oh, must be mine. All right, I'd like to, my name is Dietrich Werner, and I'm the president of the Century House Historical Society. And I'm glad to be able to introduce Dr. Carleton Mabee, who's going to make the presentation on Father Divine. And actually, Dr. Mabee has written a book about Father Divine, so if you don't pay attention, there will be questions. So buy a book so you can, write in your answers and send them in later for the questions that he'll be asking. But without really any further ado, I'll ask Gail to turn off the lights.
I'd like to speak first before you turn off the lights.
Okay, yes. And, well, I'll give you Dr. Mabee. Thank you.
Dietrich Werner and friends, I'm very happy to say that I've been able to accomplish something, but only with the help of many people, including Dietrich Werner and others who are in this room today. It's not possible to do very much in historical research without a lot of help, and I've had a great deal of help. I'm very grateful for it. I'd like to summarize in a few words the history of the Civil Rights Movement in a way that oversimplifies the role of Father Divine in it, oversimplifies the whole thing, but it still makes a point. Father Divine proved that interracial living was possible. So Rosa Parks sat in front of a bus and she wouldn't move when she was asked to go to the back. So Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech in Washington. So Barack Obama was elected President of the United States. There it is in a few words. Oversimplified. It does happen. Father Divine established some 30 interracial communities in Ulster County. They stretched north to the town of Socrates, south to Milton, near Newburgh, and they stretched well into the Catskill Mountains. The earliest Divine community was created in the town of New Paltz in 1935, and the last one lasted in Kingston until 1985. That's a span of 50 years. These communities were idealistic, and that appeals to me. They were deliberately interracial. If this Divine movement was giving a dinner, as they frequently did, this is one of their delights to give dinners all the time, they would be very likely to seat a white person next to a black person if it were possible. If someone was sent out from the Divine movement to do some shopping, two persons were likely to be sent out, and they would be careful that one was white and the other was black. If two persons were rooming together in a Divine movement housing, they were likely to be deliberately selected so that a person of a different race lived with another person of a different race. These communities were owned not by Divine, also not by any overall Divine bureaucratic organization. Each community was owned separately by particular individuals. They were followers of Father Divine who chose to put their money into this community. The workers in these communities were volunteers. They were not paid, but they were supplied with such necessities as food and clothing. They believed in no smoking, no drinking, no violence, and no sex, even sex between husband and wife. If there were children in the community, they believed that they should be raised by the whole community, not by the parents. They believed in courtesy. They believed in benevolence. They believed in selling to the public. They often sold farm produce. They often sold gasoline. They often sold garage services or handmade dresses or whatever it was, whatever they sold to the public, including the meals in their many, many restaurants. They believed in selling at below market rates. They believed that if you really trust God, really, really, really trust God, you don't need to insure your property. And you don't need to plan for a pension in your old age. And you refuse to accept government relief. You refuse to accept government social security. This is a startling way of looking at trust in God. Father Divine was highly controversial. In the 1930s to the 1950s, almost everybody in America knew who he was. They knew that he was black. They knew that he was based in Harlem. He seemed to make himself mysterious, however. Even though many people knew his name, they didn't know much about him. There were particular things they wanted to know that they couldn't find out. They couldn't find out where he was born, for example. He wouldn't say. He seemed to delight in making himself mysterious. Time magazine called him slick and inexplicable. He claimed that he had no property, no possessions, no bank account, and that he refused to accept donations. One of the most common questions that people asked about him was, where then did he get all the money that he seemed to be able to control to buy so much property? And the kind of answer he usually gave was an answer that just didn't really explain anything. And now I'm ready to show a few slides.
If you could turn that light that's right behind you there, is there just a regular normal switch? There we go. Thank you.
When people asked Father Divine where his money came from, one of the most common answers that he gave was this expression that you see here beside a picture of him. The spirit of the consciousness of the presence of God is the source of all supply. And I think most people felt that explains nothing. This is Mother Divine with Father Divine. This is the first Mother Divine. She was large, so in this picture she's seated. Father Divine was short, so in this picture he's standing up. Some historians believe now that Father Divine was probably born in Maryland, that his mother and father had been slaves way back sometime, and that Father Divine grew up under difficult circumstances, accustomed to segregation and poverty and alcoholism and disruption and overeating, all those things you knew about from his childhood. It is believed. By about 1899, he was probably in Baltimore, working as a gardener, and spending much of his time doing preaching for storefront churches. Then he spent some time in the Deep South as a traveling evangelist, and he got into trouble down there because he did preach already against segregation, and he did preach already against having any kind of sex at all, and this disturbed the community, and often he was thrown out of the communities where he was trying to preach. Eventually, by about 1915, he was in New York City. By this time, he had a few followers. His wife, whom he had met in the Deep South, was one of them. She believed that he had healed her. He had a few followers, and eventually he